Microsoft's gaming chief on Xbox games coming to PS5. So we heard a little bit about this, and we saw some interesting trailers, which I think hinted towards Grounded coming to PS5 because we see it coming to the Nintendo Switch. This was the podcast, the Xbox podcast, that they're talking about bringing 4 exclusive games to PS5 and Nintendo. 2 of these games, he said, were a year-old, new IPs, and community-driven. So that's what I see from Grounded, and then perhaps we'll see another one, maybe Minecraft Legends, or what's that? I think it's Legends. It's Diablo, but Minecraft. I've never played it.
Yeah, Minecraft Legends. I don't think it'd be those ones. Everything he said, everything he hinted to, in what is the worst communication to your fan base I have ever heard, was essentially you're getting Hi-Fi Rush, Sea of Thieves, Grounded, and Pentiment.
Oh, Sea of Thieves.
2 of which were confirmed earlier today in the Nintendo Direct that went live just before we did. They announced that Grounded and Pentiment are both coming to Nintendo Switch, so we can expect imminent announcements for those to come to PlayStation 5 as well at some point in the future. This was such a nothing podcast. It was what? Half an hour, 45 minutes long, something like that? Way longer than it needed to be to say, yes, we are making some games multi-format. Don't worry, it's not all of them. And they just basically said nothing for the entire show. Everything was about, it felt like they were talking to the shareholders, the stakeholders of the company, but trying to belay our fears. And it's like, what? It was terrible. It was such a bad podcast, such a bad message and way to do it. But the big news out of it for PlayStation fans is if you are missing out on certain Xbox exclusives, you will be getting 4 of those later this year. And again, from everything he said, with the least amount of, shall we say, nuance and tact, is it's going to be Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, Grounded, and Sea of Thieves. They are the 4 games that are defo going. And then he said, no other games will be going to other platforms. We're still going to have our exclusives, but other games might go to other platforms. So we are none the wiser off this week, after they have held this Xbox business update podcast thing, than we were when we were theorizing 2 weeks ago. We have basically the same information now. It was pointless. Utterly pointless. And yeah.
They said the word invest multiple times. It felt like they were doing more of an elevator pitch to shareholders to continue confidence in Xbox and Microsoft gaming. That's how it felt like to me. It wasn't for your average gamer. They kept saying how they were the biggest publisher on these platforms, how they were the biggest producer of games now with their new acquisitions. And they mentioned,
when you buy up those people, that tends to happen.
Yeah, and that's how companies operate in that economy. There, they just chew up and they grow from there. And that's what we saw. They were just saying, now that we're at this position, we're letting everyone know we're at this position. Feel free to invest in Microsoft's gaming. And not to mention Game Pass, they did mention that Call of Duty would be coming there day one, which we knew some rumors were floating around the title not coming day one. Other than that, we'll see a June showcase from them, which they mentioned. But my feelings, my takeaways is this presentation was more of an elevator pitch to invest into Microsoft.
Yeah, it was to... They were losing stock, basically, and that was a big problem. Like their value tanked, and when I say tanked, I mean they lost the GDP of a small country overnight because of all these rumors. So they had to do something to stop that hemorrhaging. But they changed nothing. Like when they said, "Oh, don't worry, things like Halo and Starfield aren't going to PlayStation," but you never say never. Halo and Starfield are going to be on PlayStation, and I would put money on it being before the middle of 2025. We will see the Master Chief Collection on PlayStation before the middle of 2025, and you can hold me to that. If I'm wrong, I will hold my hands up and I don't know, like maybe try and sell one of these shirts to someone. But yeah, it's one of those. Everything he said, he then undermined with further statements further into the show. Is absolutely pointless. You may as well have said nothing and have the same effect.
What's going on? Good morning, Sanchez Gaming. The podcast was good because they debunked all other rumors, like Game Pass changes and Starfield and Halo coming to PS, like the world was saying. Yes, for sure. And I guess we'll see if they stick to those words or what they do progressing forward. But they did make a strong stance on exclusivity. I will say that. And yes, Sanchez, we will be getting into how Sony can't seem to predict to save their life. That is a news story that I'll be jumping into because I'm upset, to be honest, about that whole economy situation. It seems like everybody just wants to gamble. And that's how the economy works, and it's people's lives and jobs. But we'll jump into that later. Don't worry.